So just to start out, what got you into go-kart racing?
Yeah, so I kind of was born around a racetrack. So my dad raced stock cars like on an oval track growing up. He actually won the championship the year I was born. So I was kind of always around that environment growing up. And then there was one summer my family and I were just doing the rental go-karts around the Maritimes here. And yeah, I got on a rental go-kart and just kind of fell in love with it. And then we rented a race go-kart the next weekend. And yeah, we've been hooked ever since.
That's really good. So how long have you been racing for?
I've been racing since I was 8 years old. So this is my ninth year in karting.
Okay, so you're 17
I'm,
right now?
I'm 17, yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. So do you own your own cart?
Yes, I do own my own go-kart. Yeah.
And so how many have you owned? Like, do you own like multiple, or like how many have you owned over your life? Like, I was curious about that.
Yeah, no, for sure. So some seasons we do keep two go-karts, but right now I currently just have one. I'm probably on my eighth go-kart now. We normally just get a new one every year just to start fresh with a new go-kart. And yeah, we sell off our other ones. There have been a couple of years where we did decide to keep two go-karts just out of convenience with us traveling and a lot of stuff like that. But no, currently, yeah, I just have one.
Mhm. Yeah, so you talked a bit about this, but you said your dad used to race. So is your family very supportive of you go-karting?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
For us, like karting is definitely like a really big family sport. And like, especially for my family, like my parents and my sister love it just as much as I do. And a lot of times, like karting takes up a lot of our time. So, like, we try to turn our karting trips into family trips. So, like, even when we come to Ontario for nationals, like, we always make time to go to Canada's Wonderland and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Like, it does really turn into a family trip. But yeah,
Oh,
they're really supportive of us.
so does your sister race as well? Like,
My sister is 2 years older than me, and she did try it out right when we first kind of got into it. So I was about 9 and she was 11. So she kind of just tried it out, but it wasn't really her thing. So she just did it for
mhm,
about a year and then kind of got out of it.
yeah. So we were wondering, do you like when it comes to go-karting, you want to get like all the right angles, I guess. So like we were wondering, does competing in go-karting require like a certain understanding of math and like geometry?
No, it doesn't really, you don't have to have a certain understanding of math and stuff like that. Personally, I believe like having a really good mental game is important. Like just being really mentally stable, I find is really important coming into karting, but it doesn't require any math or anything like that. I mean,
Mhm.
sometimes some of that stuff helps with like deciding gears and like some of like things about like setting up the go-kart, but when it comes to driving, no, you don't need any math skills.
Mhm. So like I already kind of mentioned this, but there's a common misconception that go-karting is a recreational activity for families, like the tracks at Wonderland or different theme parks. And meanwhile, they're not aware of the competitive nature of the sport. Could you talk about go-karting as a sport and the seriousness behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. I completely understand like people not thinking of it the way I race go-karts because like you like even I tell people like I race go-karts and they're like, "Oh yeah, I was on go-karts like at the amusement park the other day." And I'm like, "No, it's a different type of go-kart." But so yeah, I definitely understand that. But no, so it's a completely different chassis and yeah, the engine's completely different. We're not really out there leisurely driving around
Mhm.
and stuff like that. So yeah, it is a completely different world. But yeah, a lot of people don't really understand that. And that might be because a lot of people are going to these amusement park tracks rather than more like competitive tracks like Mosport, Goodwood, and like my home track here.
Mhm.
So many professional racers we interviewed mentioned that they got their start in kart racing. Is that one of your long-term goals to enter professional racing?
Yeah, right now I just graduated high school, so I'm kind of really focused on my education right now. So I will be attending Dalhousie University for engineering. So right now my goal is to become an engineer and hopefully work for a race team. As for driving, I mean, that would be amazing. Like that obviously would be a goal as well. But right now I'm just really working towards kind of getting that job of working as an engineer for a race team.
For sure. So, I don't know if you know the like NASCAR Pinty series, but one of our interviewees, LP Dumoulin, he told us that due to COVID, his series is currently not running. So in order to stay competitive, he races go-karting like all the time. Have you ever raced against any professionals?
Personally, I haven't raced against any professionals, but like I do see some around the tracks.
Mhm.
So like Ruben Barrichello, the old Ferrari Formula One driver, I've seen him at the go-kart track. Robert Wickens, he's been around at the go-kart track. So I do know of lots of people who do race go-karts. Like even a lot of people who started in go-karts, like still always come back to them and stuff like that. And we
Mhm.
see a lot of chassis now named or made by a lot of those famous drivers, such as Daniel Ricciardo in Formula One with the Ricciardo kart. And yeah, there's tons of Formula One drivers that now have their own go-kart brands.
Yeah, for sure.
Cool. Could you discuss some of the dangers of kart racing?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely lots of dangers when it does come to kart racing. I mean, anything could happen out there. Um, yeah, I mean, I have flipped personally before, and like that is always a possibility, but like we wear the proper gear for like knowing that that is a possibility. So, I mean, and there's safety crew here the whole time. And yeah, there is a lot of safety precautions we take because we know the risk is so big.
Mhm. Yeah, so obviously there's a lot more safety equipment and stuff behind the go-karting scene. But in comparison to that, what do you think some of the risks are when it comes to street racing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, like at the go-kart track here, we have an ambulance, waiting on site just in case anything did happen. And yeah, we wear tons of gear, like tons of gear to make sure that we're safe. And like when it comes to street racing, you don't have that ambulance sitting on the sidelines waiting in case something happened and you're not wearing that gear. And plus, like, all of the competitors out on track have that same gear on where when you're street racing, these innocent people that are getting hurt have nothing to do with it.
Mm. So this is a more general question, but what is your opinion on street racing? What do you think about the industry?
Yeah, I mean, like personally, like street racing, like even just like the name of it, like personally, I don't believe that there should ever be racing on streets. Like racing is meant for the track, not the streets. So even just the name of it to me doesn't make sense. But yeah, definitely, I feel like racing should be kept on the tracks and not the streets for sure. It's just really dangerous and something that shouldn't be done.
Hmm. For sure. Um, so what sort of safety equipment do you use while racing that obviously wouldn't be available to the street racers?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I wear fire resistant boots, fire resistant suit. I wear a rib protector under my suit that just kind of comes around the side and it's like right tight to protect your rib cage. Um, I wear a helmet that is Snell approved. Yeah, everything has to be approved by like a certain specification. I wear fire resistant gloves. Yeah, there's tons of gear when it comes to it.
Hmm. Yeah, so of course that's like what you wear, like the safety equipment that you use. But like, what about the track? What does the track offer that wouldn't be available to street racers?
Yeah, absolutely. So every marshal on the track, like around every corner, would have a fire extinguisher with them in case something happened. And yeah, like I said, we have an ambulance on standby at the go-kart track with all of their equipment as well. There is a defibrillator at the track here. And I know that's a regulation down here in the Maritimes, like they have to have a defibrillator here. And yeah, there is a lot of safety gear here for sure.
Hmm. So this is kind of like a two-part question. The first part, we know that you're like, since you're like 17, we weren't sure. Do you have a driver's license?
Yeah, I
Are you
do
on
have
the
a
road?
driver's license.
Okay, okay. So based off of a lot of the interviews we have done, so we've interviewed people like James Hinchcliffe, LP Dumoulin, of course, and Julia Landauer. These are people like in the Pinty series and IndyCar,
Yeah.
and all of them have all agreed that they feel more safe racing on the track, going like top speeds, rather than actually racing on the road. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And that kind of all goes back to the gear we're wearing and like still having that ambulance on standby. and like I know who I'm on track with. You know what I mean? So like in the streets, it's a big question mark, you know? You don't know the car next to you, where on the track here, I know everyone. I know I have the correct gear on. I know there's a safety crew there if something happened. So yeah, I 100% feel safer on the track here.
Hmm. So when I sent you a message, you mentioned that you were interested in like promoting road safety, and you liked our message behind that. This is kind of like a broad question, but can you tell me why? Why are you keen on this?
Yeah, no, definitely. I personally, being a teenager, like in high school, I mean, like I've seen crashes and stuff with teenagers and it resulting from street racing. So it definitely is really important, like to me, that people should be safe on the roads, and also like personally driving on the roads. I think you shouldn't fear getting in a car, and being a racer as well. I do think everyone should have like the same or like a similar opinion that, like, you know, driving should be something that should be enjoyed and fun and not something that people should fear.
Hmm.
So yeah, I definitely think that street racing, yeah, it definitely is really important to me.
Yeah. So do you think that go-karting is a good alternative for people who have that sort of need for speed, or like that desire to go fast, as
Yeah,
opposed to driving dangerously on the road, like what the street racers do?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, 100%. I believe that go-karting is a really great alternative because, again, you're going to be getting that need for speed that you require, but at a safer place and with the proper gear on. And you're not going to be putting yourself or anyone else at risk to get that.
Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also noticed that you're part of Girl Power. Can you tell us a little bit about that and why you're a part of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So I support the brand Redline Ace, and they run a girl power clothing line. And yeah, so it's a bunch of us girls that race all over North America. And yeah, it's really close to home for me because, you know, being a girl in the sport at first was difficult. And I mean, sometimes it's still difficult because you are in a male dominated sport. But no, I mean, just having the support from my Red Line Ace team is really empowering. And it's really cool for me to be able to empower other young females who are looking to get into the sport. So yeah, girl power is definitely something that's really close to home for me. And it's something that I really enjoy supporting.
Mm. Yeah, that's pretty well all the questions we had for today. It was great getting your thoughts on the issue of street racing, and we really like what you had to say. It was great talking to you.
Awesome.
Thanks for
Thanks for
joining
having me,
us.
guys.
All right. Have a nice day,
Thank you
then.
so much.
Yep.
Bye.
Okay, bye.